Meetra, Surik, the Jedi, Exile, the woman who stood at the Battle of Malachor and made the choice that ended the Mandalorian Wars, and broke the Force itself. In the original timeline, the Jedi Council punished her for that choice. They stripped her of the Force, severed her connection to the living energy that defined her, and cast her into exile. She spent years wandering the galaxy, alone, broken, forgotten. But what if the Jedi Council had made a different choice? What if, instead of exiling her, they had embraced her? Welcome to the timeline where the Jedi Council did not fear the exile. They needed her. The Jedi Council feared Meetra, Surik. They feared what she had become at Malachor, a wound in the Force, a being who could drain the life and power from those around her. They feared her influence on other Jedi, her connection to Revan, her willingness to defy the Council for what she believed was right. But fear is not wisdom. In this timeline, one Council member speaks the truth that the others refuse to hear. It is not Meetra Surik who is the danger. It is the Council's fear that is the danger. They need her. The Sith are returning. The Jedi are scattered and weak. And the Exile has a power that no other Jedi possesses, the ability to create Force bonds, to strengthen others through connection, to build an army of Jedi through sheer presence alone. Instead of exile, the Jedi Council gives Meetra Surik a new purpose. She becomes a teacher, not in a temple, not in a classroom, but in the field. The Council sends her to find the Jedi who were lost during the Jedi Civil War, the ones who went into hiding, who abandoned the Order, who lost their way. And Meetra Surik does what she has always done. She connects with them. Through her unique Force ability, she doesn't just find these lost Jedi. She reignites their connection to the Force. She makes them stronger than they were before. She takes broken, frightened, lost souls and turns them into a new generation of Jedi Knights. The Order begins to rebuild, and for the first time since Revan's fall, there is hope. In the original timeline, the Sith triumvirate, Darth Nihilus, Darth Sion, and Darth Traya, hunted the Jedi to near extinction while the Exile was still in exile. The Jedi had no defense, no leader, no hope. But in this timeline, everything is different. The Sith triumvirate still emerges, still begins their hunt. But this time, the Jedi are not scattered and broken. Meetra Surik has spent years rebuilding them, training them, forging bonds between them. When the Sith assassins come for the Jedi, they find not victims but warriors. The first Sith attack fails. The second fails. The Triumvirate is forced to adapt, to change their strategy. And in doing so, they make a critical mistake. Darth Traya, once known as Krya, was Meetra Surik's teacher. In the original timeline, she manipulated the Exile, used her, betrayed her. But in this timeline, Traya faces a different problem. Meetra Surik is not a lost exile, vulnerable and alone. She is a leader, a teacher, a symbol of hope for the Jedi Order. Traya cannot manipulate someone who is no longer broken. She cannot control someone who has already found purpose. And this creates something Traya never expected, doubt. For the first time in decades, Krya questions her own philosophy. If the Exile can rebuild the Jedi without falling to the dark side, without becoming like Revan, then perhaps the Force is not the trap Krya believes it to be. The Battle of Telos was the climax of the original timeline, the moment when Meetra Surik confronted Darth Nihilus and ended the threat of the Lord of Hunger. In this timeline, the battle still happens, but it is not a desperate last stand by a handful of survivors. It is a coordinated assault by a rebuilt Jedi Order, led by Meetra Surik and her student. Nihilus, who feeds on the Force, finds himself facing an enemy he cannot consume. Meetra Surik is a wound in the Force. She is the one being in the galaxy who is immune to his hunger, and she is not alone. Her students, strengthened by their bonds with her, resist Nihilus's draining power. Together, they do what no single Jedi could do. They destroy the Lord of Hunger. Darth Sion, the Lord of Pain, is immortal through hatred. His body is broken, held together by dark side rage, but he cannot be killed by conventional means. In the original timeline, Meetra Surik defeated him by showing him that his hatred was a prison, not a strength. She broke his will to live. In this timeline, she does the same. But faster, more decisively, because she is not exhausted from years of exile. She is strong. She is surrounded by allies. And Sion, for all his power, has never faced a Jedi who understood pain the way Meetra Surik does. She has lived with the wound of Malachor every day of her existence. She knows pain intimately, and she knows that pain, accepted and understood, loses its power over you. Sion does not in battle, but in understanding. The final confrontation between Meetra Surik and Darth Traya takes place on Malachor, the same world where everything began. But this time, the context is entirely different. Meetra Surik is not a lost exile seeking answers. She is a Jedi Master who has rebuilt the Order, defeated the Sith Triumvirate, and proven that Krya's philosophy was wrong. The Force does not need to be destroyed. The Jedi do not need to die. The Exile is living proof that connection, not isolation, is the path to strength. Krya, confronted with the failure of her own ideology, does something she never did in the original timeline. She listens. And in listening, she remembers why she became a teacher in the first place. Not to manipulate, not to control, but to guide. In this timeline, Krya does not die as an enemy. She dies as a teacher. With the Sith Triumvirate destroyed and the Jedi Order rebuilt, Meetra Surik faces a choice. She could become the new Grand Master, the leader of the Jedi for a generation. But she does not. Instead, she does something far more revolutionary. She changes what it means to be a Jedi. Under her leadership, the Jedi Order no longer teaches that attachment leads to the dark side. Instead, it teaches that isolation leads to the dark side. Connection is strength. Bonds are power. The ability to feel, to love, to grieve, to hope is not a weakness, but a foundation. The new Jedi Order trains knights who are not afraid of their emotions, who do not suppress their feelings, who understand that the Force flows through relationships, not isolation. It is a very radical change. And it saves the Order. This timeline is a story about choices. The Jedi Council chose fear over wisdom, and in doing so, they nearly destroyed themselves. But, in this timeline, they chose differently. They chose to embrace the exile instead of casting her out. They chose to use her power instead of fearing it. And in doing so, they saved not only the Jedi Order, but the galaxy itself. Meetra Surik's story teaches us that the greatest strength is not in isolation, but in connection. That the wounds we carry can become the foundation of something greater. And that sometimes the person you fear the most is the one you need the most. This has been Noctvara Studio. Subscribe for more alternate timelines from the Old Republic era.